She stroked a silicone baby bump while funneling every cent of our inheritance into a secret account, and then begged me onto a daytime talk show so the world could applaud her miracle. She never imagined those studio lights were my trap. By the final commercial break, while 3 million viewers held their breath, she confessed every lie she had ever told. My name is Evan. I am 34, a structural engineer who spends lunch breaks drawing wind-load arrows across glass footbridges in dawn hours, carving bubbles through a slate-gray lake in triathlon training. 6 months ago, I believed life had locked into place. A decade-long marriage to brilliant Lena, a craftsman bungalow we sanded together until cedar dust perfumed every memory, and the thick envelope of my grandmother's legacy resting in a fire-safe box. Only one word haunted our hallway: children. Our road toward parenthood was paved with yellow-topped specimen jars and fluorescent waiting room chairs. 2 miscarriages within 18 months hollowed us. The echo of a flat fetal monitor became both grief and guilt. An in vitro cycle swallowed our savings and our easy laughter. Yet we stitched hope back together with late-night playlists, whispered jokes about baby names, and the way Lena placed my hand on her stomach each dawn, as though inviting life itself to listen. The morning Lena burst into the kitchen waving a plastic wand marked with a single rosy cross, cinnamon tea sloshed from her fierce and female mug. Sunlight fractured across the subway tiles like stained glass. I dropped to my knees, half prayer, half shock, while the test stick dripped faintly on the hardwood. Her cheeks glowed the hibiscus pink I had not seen since our wedding rehearsal dinner. I wished I could bottle that moment, cinnamon, sunlight, brand new hope, and drink it on nights when disappointment would surely return. Within 2 hours, Lena had downloaded 3 pregnancy tracker apps, each with a pastel icon that chimed gentle notifications. Your baby is a blueberry. Your baby is a raspberry. She ordered a lavender yoga mat, pinned 6 nursery pallets, and chalked a whale-themed board reading 8 weeks on the blackboard we usually used for remembering milk. Hope, that slippery chemical, felt solid enough to grip. That evening I opened a brand new joint account titled Baby Future, transferred $148,000, my grandmother's entire legacy, into its balance, and typed the memo in trembling capitals: for our rainbow. Grandma once told me a gift given in faith multiplies like loaves in the wilderness. I imagined twins racing through sprinkler arcs beneath our maple tree, chasing soap bubbles that burst like tiny fireworks. Weeks 6 through 8 rolled by in a montage of textbook symptoms. Lena dry-heaved fragrant ginger into the sink at dawn, devoured pickles dipped in vanilla ice cream at midnight, and dissolved into sobs during insurance commercials featuring golden retriever puppies. I massaged her spine, brewed peppermint tea, and convinced myself I could see the faintest swell beneath her cotton shirt. Every sigh lodged itself as documentary proof in my chest. At week 9, Lena greeted me at the front door with 2 black and white ultrasound prints. Twins, she whispered. The grainy image resembled distant galaxies, yet I recognized 2 gummy bear silhouettes. My legs failed. I sat on the doormat laughing and crying while cold rain hammered the porch roof. We framed the picture in brushed silver and set it on the mantel beside our wedding portrait. That corner of the living room became an altar to tomorrow. Anxiety, however, slips beneath doorsills. One thunder-heavy night, Lena stared at the ceiling, tracing invisible circles on her belly. If something goes wrong again, she said, promise you will not look at me as though I am broken. Her plea shook like a snapped violin string. I pressed my palm against the gentle curve and vowed that my love was not measured by chromosomes. 2 nights later, she requested passwords to every online account, in case bed rest happens and bills still need paying. Trust struck, I shared them all. Autofill fed her each credential like candy. I told myself transparency is the cornerstone of marriage. I forgot keys can open as well as lock. Red flag number 1 arrived wearing corporate blue. A crisp envelope from the credit union announced a wire transfer of $32 $2,500 to a firm named LHX Holdings. My heartbeat stumbled. Lena gasped, blamed identity thieves, clutched my face, brewed chamomile, and promised to call the fraud department first thing. Comfort drowned logic. I believed her. Red flag number 2 crept in 8 days later during a friendly check-in call from Julia, the nurse who had held Lena's hand during the failed embryo transfer. When I mentioned Lena's upcoming ultrasound, Julia paused. Our database shows no appointment for her since last spring. Is everything okay? My stomach folded like wet cardboard. Confronted, Lena laughed the matter away. Clerical chaos, darling. That clinic never updates anything. I will switch, less stress. She booked a first trimester scan at a new practice the next morning and insisted I conserve my limited vacation days. I let her go alone, telling myself independence was healthy while an ache gnawed at the base of my skull. Thursday, 2 minutes past 2 in the morning, insomnia drove me to the attic for an engineering textbook. Instead, I found a molded foam maternity belly, size 4 to 5 months, tags uncut and reeking of factory rubber. The attic spun. I vomited into a dusty paint bucket, wretches echoing like a confession. Dawn stained the blinds a sickly gold as I navigated empty streets toward Ray, my college roommate turned investigative reporter. We filed quiet record requests. The baby future account had bled $123,000 into an entity called Lena Innovations Limited Liability Company, incorporated 48 hours after the positive test. Meanwhile, Lena's emails showed her reserving a St. Lucia villa for a July baby moon, upgrading from ocean view to clifftop infinity pool. Rage hissed like a ruptured steam line, but engineering teaches containment. I channeled fury into blueprint precision. Let the performance play until the last curtain. Every actor eventually needs an audience. I bought cocoa butter and massaged it into silicone each night, watching relief flicker behind Lena's pupils. I photographed receipts, screenshotted villa invoices, and backed everything to 3 encrypted drives. 4 weeks later, Lena squealed. Morning Chat invited us for their Mother's Day special on rainbow pregnancies. Millions watched that saccharine circus. Perfect stage. Perfect spotlight. I mirrored her enthusiasm, nodding with wide eyes, already scripting revelations. Producer Maya's office smelled of burnt coffee and urgency. Sliding Ray's dossier across her desk, I pitched a sweeps week bombshell. A live-on-air unmasking, signed releases in hand. Legal counsel's eyes glittered like coins. Ethics advisors winced but approved under the hidden camera clause. The segment locked. Mother's Day would bloom with more than roses. Preparation consumed the next fortnight. I printed 75 evidence packets, bank transfers, Amazon invoices for silicone bellies, stock ultrasounds pulled from Getty, and chat logs of Lena bargaining for extra butler service at the villa. Each envelope bore a neon sticker, open when host says trust. I rehearsed breathing so my heart would not hammer through the lapel mic. I timed the distance between Carla Gray's soft welcome and the pivot toward revelation. I practiced standing still as an oak while the world cracked like thunder. Broadcast day dawned bright and pitiless. In the green room, a stylist sprayed Lena's synthetic curls. She murmured that pregnancy hormones had ruined her natural hair. Stage managers clipped wireless packs to our belts. The transmitter on her belly beeped where foam muffled the antenna. The audience, primed by warm-up jokes and free muffins, erupted in oohs as Carla welcomed our brave rainbow parents. Lena squeezed my fingers. Her other palm rested theatrically on velvet stretched over foam. Carla lobbed gentle questions about cravings and crib colors. Lena's tears shone under the key light. The applause sign flashed. I tracked camera dollies and cable gleams, counting them like rivets on a bridge I no longer trusted to hold. Carla turned, voice honey soft. "Evan, could you sum this journey in one word?" "Trust," I breathed. Ushers slipped my envelopes into audience hands like silent invitations. Carla's tone pivoted. "Trust is powerful," she said, "but sometimes secrets hide behind it." The giant screen bloomed with 2 matching ultrasounds, ours and the identical stock image. The studio exhaled in unison. Lena's smile wavered. The bump shifted off-center. Carla pressed, "Both clinics you listed report no patient under your name. Can you explain?" Red tally lights glowed like judgment. A hush fell as neon-stickered envelopes tore open. Papers flickered through spotlights. Transfers, corporate filings, silicone invoices. Gasps multiplied. The paper storm settled, replaced by silence thick enough to taste. Every face in the tiered seating stared at Lena, and then at me, as though waiting for instructions on how to breathe. My pulse slowed. Engineering brain kicked in. Load test complete. Failure confirmed. Carla, maintaining velvet professionalism, spoke first. "Lena, is there a real pregnancy behind this story?" Spotlights narrowed until sweat pearls glittered on Lena's forehead. She opened her mouth, closed it again, and finally produced a cracked whisper. "No." The single syllable rang like a dropped glass. Tears smeared her mascara into smoky rivers. "I was afraid," she continued, voice trembling. "We lost 2 pregnancies. Evan deserved perfect. I thought if I could hold his hope, gather security money before anything went wrong again, he would not leave me." Each confession syllable felt rehearsed yet raw. Booing ignited in pockets of the crowd. Carla lifted a manicured hand to calm the noise. I stepped forward, grounding my shoes against the glossy floor. "I never asked perfection," I said, measuring tone like torque. "I asked honesty. The wound here is not childlessness, it is deception and theft." Commercial break cut the feed like scissors to ribbon. Stage managers herded us off under half brightness. Backstage, 2 detectives in plain suits waited with a folder thick as drywall. One read Lena her rights in the gentle voice reserved for grieving relatives. The other collected the silicone bump as evidence. Lena did not resist. Shoulders folded, she surrendered jewelry, microphone pack, and my grandmother's engagement locket she had worn for sympathy sparkle. When the handcuffs clicked, the clatter echoed down the corridor and into corners where crew members pretended to adjust cables instead of watching her fall. Producer Maya approached me holding a clipboard and an apology heavier than steel. Ratings would skyrocket, she said, but she wanted to ensure I felt safe. I signed release addendums with steady pen strokes, my thoughts already sprinting ahead to lawyers and restitution schedules. Outside, paparazzi bulbs strobed like magnesium flares. #FakeBump trended worldwide before we reached the parking lot. Within 40 minutes, meme accounts layered techno music over clips of the slipping belly. True crime podcasters scheduled emergency live streams. Infertility forums argued ethics until servers slowed. That night, the house felt cavernous without Lena's curated chaos. I wandered room to room collecting relics of the performance. A half-knitted lemon-yellow baby blanket, prenatal vitamins still sealed, the chalkboard whale smiling stupidly under 9 weeks. I erased the number and left the whale. It looked lonely. Sleep refused entry. At 4 a.m, I drove to the lake, slipped into water black as printer ink, and swam until shoulders burned. Every stroke whispered a different emotion. Fury, pity, embarrassment, relief like color bands in a torn flag. Dawn bled peach across the horizon. I kept swimming for one length more, just to see if I could. In the following days, financial reality unfolded through certified mail. The bank froze Lena Innovations Limited Liability Company under suspected fraud. Credit union investigators called twice, polite but relentless. They confirmed a remaining balance of $8,340, a fragment of the fortune that once sat in baby future. Lawyer meetings blurred together, mahogany tables, lemon-scented folders, pens that cost more than grocery trips. We filed for divorce, citing deceit and conversion of marital funds. Clean separation is unlikely, Attorney Mullick warned. but full restitution is plausible. Courts frown on fraud involving unborn children. His understatement tasted like metal. 3 weeks post-broadcast, court convened for the preliminary hearing. Lena entered in charcoal jumpsuit, wrists unshackled but skin pale as tracing paper. Her attorney attempted soft-focus arguments about trauma response and mental health. Judge Ramirez listened politely, then set bail modestly high and scheduled a full evidentiary trial for late summer. Outside the courthouse, microphones sprouted like weeds. I read a short statement. Grief deserves compassion. Deception deserves consequences. Then I walked away, no questions. Silence, I had learned, holds shape longer than any quote. Over the next month, restitution trickled in as salvage teams reverse-engineered wire transfers. Each Friday, an envelope arrived confirming another installment. $7,000, $9,200, $5,600. I logged them in a spreadsheet titled Healing, coloring cells green as they cleared. Loneliness moved in where Lena's perfume once hovered. I filled evenings with longer bike rides, later drafts of a pedestrian bridge proposal, and reluctant therapy. Sarah, the therapist, challenged me to name each emotion instead of defaulting to controlled detachment. We practiced labeling sadness distinct from anger, relief distinct from smugness. Summer unfurled in humid sheets. Trial week arrived under a heat advisory. Inside the courtroom, air conditioning hissed like distant surf. Evidence appeared in neat exhibits. The silicone belly exhibited under glass, still gleaming with cocoa butter. Bank statement charts projected floor to ceiling. The Getty ultrasound watermarked demonstratively. Lena took the stand on the third day. Her testimony oscillated between contrition and self-pity. She spoke of miscarriages, expectation culture, spiraling anxiety. Prosecutor Ellis countered with timestamps, invoices, and the villa upgrade email where Lena requested butler discreetness regarding non-existent pregnancy. Jurors' eyebrows formed a tide shifting away from her. Closing arguments lasted 40 minutes. The jury deliberated for 2 hours and 21 minutes. Verdict: guilty on 2 counts of wire fraud and 1 count of grand larceny. Sentencing deferred pending psychological evaluation, but Judge Ramirez ordered immediate restitution schedule execution and a no-contact directive, except through counsel. Reporters waited outside, but I exited through a side door and rode my bike home under cicada drone. At the maple tree I paused, pressed my palm against bark warm from afternoon sun, and realized the tire swing vision still belonged to me, just not on someone else's timetable. 2 weeks later, Lena accepted a plea deal, 18 months of community service at a women's financial literacy nonprofit, 5 years probation, and full financial repayment indexed to cost of living. Irony settled like dust, education as penance for fraudulent education fund. The online world mutated swiftly. Sympathy fragments clung to Lena in comment threads, but the dominant narrative evolved into cautionary fable. College ethics classes requested rights to the broadcast for discussions on trust economies. Morning chat rear-ended the episode during rating sweeps. Viewership doubled. By early autumn, the restitution spreadsheet glowed full green. Malik filed final divorce decree papers. The judge signed off without hearing. My grandmother's legacy returned home like a prodigal currency. I moved the money into a certificate of deposit labeled Honest Tomorrow. On the anniversary of Confession Day, Carla invited me back to morning chat. This time I walked alone, envelope free, heartbeat steady. I announced the Rainbow Honest Fund, grants, not loans, for couples pursuing transparent fertility journeys. The studio audience rose. Their applause sounded like a held breath released. After taping, I cycled the riverside route where Lena and I once planned stroller jogs. The path glittered with puddles from a brief storm, reflecting sky in cracked porcelain patterns. I understood fatherhood might or might not visit, and wholeness did not depend on either outcome. That night, Ray texted a link, local paper headline, "Fake bump defendant begins community service." A photograph showed Lena in a gray t-shirt stacking pamphlets titled Budget Basics. I felt a weight shift, as though the story's center of gravity finally settled. I printed one photo from the triathlon I completed 2 weeks earlier. Arms raised, torso slick with lake water, smile honest. I mailed it to the Financial Literacy Center with a note. Real victories need no padding. No address for replies. Quiet became my new anthem. I woke to sunrise, not alarms. I drank coffee on the porch, listening to wind feather through maple leaves. Somewhere down the block, a child's laughter skipped like stones, and I realized trust, like concrete, gains strength when left to cure in open air. The first autumn without Lena arrived dressed in crisp gold leaves and marathon training schedules. I discovered that emptiness is not a void, but a room waiting for honest furniture. I bought a second-hand piano, sanded its scratches, and taught myself chords on evenings when silence rang too loudly. October brought an invitation from my alma mater. Deliver a guest lecture on bridge failure case studies. Halfway through the presentation, I realized the slide about tension-compression cycles mirrored my year. Stress accumulated. Cracks appeared, but with the right retrofit, truth could bear additional load. Students lined up after class, asking more about resilience than concrete. 1 week later, I opened an email from Carla. Morning. Chat viewers had donated over $162,000 to the Rainbow Honest Fund. The message ended with a single line. Pain recycled into purpose is the rarest renewable. I printed it and taped it inside my wardrobe door, where Lena's vision boards once hung. Winter arrived early. Snow lacquered the maple tree, and the empty mantel frame felt accusatory. I joined a woodworking co-op and crafted a new frame, then replaced the ultrasound with a panoramic print from my latest triathlon finish. The whale chalk drawing I left, now captioned by a child neighbor, "Dreams can swim." By January, restitution completed. Lawyer Malik closed the file with a satisfied thump. He asked what I would do with the recovered money. I said, let it rest, let it cure like fresh concrete. One day, it will support, not overshadow. He smiled the way architects smile at solid foundations. Therapist Sarah suggested a grief ritual, something to mark the end of litigation and the start of living. We drove to the lake edge at dawn. I carried the silicone belly in a paper evidence bag, still smelling of cocoa butter and regret. With permission from authorities, I sank it into 15-meter water, watching foam retreat like a failing lie. The act felt neither triumphant nor bitter, simply correct. Sarah asked what memories surfaced. I said, the first time Lena placed my hand on her real belly, before any test, before any deception. We stood in silence until winter sun painted silver across the lake. Spring rehearsed its entrance early. Buds peppered the maple. I volunteered as a swim coach for teenagers facing probation. Their eagerness reminded me that forward motion outruns most demons. One student, Marisol, asked why I wake up at 5. I said, because honesty tastes better before the world adds sugar. She laughed and beat her personal record. April delivered a registered envelope. Final dividend from the villa refund plus interest. I laughed at the universe's bookkeeping. The check amount, $11,980, landed in the Rainbow Honest Fund, annotated, from foam to future. Late May, I attended Lena's community service graduation ceremony by invitation of the nonprofit director. Lena spoke briefly. Financial literacy is oxygen. You only miss it when starved. Our eyes met once. No anger, no apology, just recognition that each story had found separate tracks. Outside the center, between posters of compound interest charts, Lena said, I heard about your scholarship program. It helps, I nodded. We shared a moment of mutual yes, we survived, then parted under fluorescent exit lights. June heat carried the annual triathlon. At mile 21 of the bike leg, a spectator handed me a paper cup inked with a whale doodle. Underneath, "Dreams still swim." I never learned who drew it. That unseen encouragement pushed my split time under previous records. The next day I emailed Ray a thank you photo. Me on the podium, medal reflecting morning sun. He replied with a single gif of a bridge raising its deck. "Keep lifting." Midsummer, Grandma's maple-produced helicopter seeds spinning like tiny escape plans. I hosted a backyard potluck for Rainbow Honest recipients who lived nearby. We tied hopes onto biodegradable paper boats and sailed them in the kiddie pool. Laughter filled the gap ultrasound silence once echoed. During cleanup, a guest named Jordan lingered, admiring the piano. He played a blues scale that made the living room sigh. Conversation slipped easily like oiled gears. Shared love of endurance sports, architecture, and cinnamon tea. When he left, the piano wood still hummed. Autumn number 2 brought fewer ghosts. Lawyer Malik's holiday card read, "May your load paths stay linear." I pinned it on the fridge beside the whale. I realized the house no longer smelled of cedar dust or lies. It smelled of coffee and polished piano keys. In November, Morning Chat aired a follow-up montage showing scholarship recipients starting IVF, adoption paperwork, or choosing a child-free adventure. Carla closed with, "Honesty fertilizes every life choice." Viewer letters tripled. I spent winter solstice hiking alone, crunching through snow under starlight. At the summit I addressed the night. "I released the need for an audience," wind answered, shaking frozen branches like applause withheld, the sweetest silence yet. 3 months later, I stood before a city council committee defending design revisions for a new pedestrian bridge. One member worried about cost. I said, "The cheapest bridge is the one built once with integrity." The design passed unanimously. On construction groundbreaking day, I pressed a small copper box into the concrete pedestal. Inside, a printed transcript of Lena's confession, a photo of my swim team, and the whale drawing. I sealed it with epoxy. "Let future maintenance crews remember integrity," I whispered. That evening Jordan visited with cinnamon tea and sheet music. We played a halting duet, laughing at missed chord changes. When rain drummed the roof, he asked, "Does the house ever feel too quiet?" I said, "Not when the music is honest." He stayed until dawn tinted the sky. Spring, year 3. The Rainbow Honest Fund surpassed $500,000. We expanded criteria to include mental health grants for partners coping with fertility trauma. Accountants smiled. There is profit in authenticity. Lena completed probation and via her lawyer, sent a check for the final $62.13 of interest accrued. I endorsed it to Rainbow Honest with a steady hand that did not shake. On the anniversary of my grandmother's passing, I installed a tire swing on the maple. Children from the block lined up. I pushed each one, listening to squeals braid with birdsong. Trust, I realized, is a swing. Tension, release, return. Later that evening, I brewed cinnamon tea with Jordan on the porch. We watched the tire swing rotate slowly in twilight. He asked if I regretted anything. I thought of silicone, stolen dollars, and daytime spotlights, then shook my head. Regret is a silicone belly, heavy and hollow. I prefer flesh and blood tomorrow. He clinked his mug against mine. The quiet anthem continues. Some mornings I still trace invisible circles on my own stomach, acknowledging hopes that live and hopes that dissolve. But sun rises, bridge steel settles, piano strings vibrate, and children's laughter bounces off maple leaves like sunlight. All of it real, all of it enough.